When it comes to mulching, gardeners are often divided. Straw, leaves, grass clippings, wood chips, everyone has their favorite. But mention sawdust and suddenly you'll get raised eyebrows, warnings, and even a few horror stories. Some say it robs nitrogen from the soil, suffocates plants, and causes more harm than good. Others insist it's one of the most underrated soil healers, capable of transforming poor ground into fertile beds. So which is it, friend or foe? We decided to put sawdust mulch to the test. First, let's tackle the science behind the fear. Sawdust is a byproduct of milling wood, and it's mostly carbon. Because it's so high in carbon and so low in nitrogen, many people believe adding it to soil directly will starve plants by tying up nitrogen as microbes break it down. And this is partly true. If you mix fresh sawdust straight into the soil, you could see plants turning yellow, stunted, and starved for nutrients. That's where the sawdust kills the garden myth comes from. But here's the twist. Mulching with sawdust on top of the soil is very different from tilling it in. When sawdust is used as a surface mulch, it decomposes slowly and creates a protective barrier. Instead of stealing nitrogen from your plants, it encourages fungi, bacteria, and earthworms to break it down over time. This slow process feeds your soil life without shocking your crops. We noticed right away that the sawdust held moisture like a sponge, keeping the soil cool even on hot afternoons. Over the course of a few weeks, we began comparing the sawdust mulch bed with a control bed mulched in straw. Both retained moisture well, but the sawdust bed had noticeably fewer weeds. The fine particles created a tight, even layer that made it hard for weed seeds to germinate. That was a big win. At the same time, we noticed that the soil beneath the sawdust stayed looser and more crumbly compared to bare soil, almost as if the mulch was shielding it from compaction. Of course, there were challenges too. Sawdust doesn't break down quickly. Unlike grass clippings or shredded leaves, it can linger on the surface for months without much visible change. This means it's not the best option if you want fast nutrient cycling. It also tends to acidify the soil slightly, which can be a problem for crops that prefer neutral ground. That said, blueberries, strawberries, and potatoes actually thrived under it, since they love slightly acidic conditions. By the end of the season, the results were clear. Sawdust didn't harm the soil. It helped it, but only when used properly. We avoided the mistake of digging it into the soil and instead treated it as a surface mulch. Paired with occasional nitrogen-rich inputs like compost tea or diluted manure, it created a balanced environment that fed both soil life and plants. So, should you use sawdust mulch in your garden? The answer is yes, with a few precautions. Use it as a surface mulch, not a soil amendment. Pair it with green, nitrogen-rich materials so your soil microbes stay happy. Expect it to work slowly, building long-term soil health rather than giving quick boosts. And if you're growing acid-loving crops, sawdust might just be one of the best mulches you can find. At the end of the test, we walked away with healthier soil, fewer weeds, and a new respect for this overlooked material. Sawdust may not be flashy, but in the right conditions, it heals soil instead of harming it.